At the family dinner, my parents said, "Nobody needs your money," or you. My sister agreed. One smiled and decided to change everything. I arrived at the dinner feeling cautiously optimistic. The dining room smelled faintly of roasted chicken and lavender from the centerpiece. My mother had insisted on buying despite my subtle protests. For years, I had quietly supported the household, paying bills, covering unexpected expenses, and even funding minor renovations, all while watching my parents dismiss my efforts. As I walked in, my sister Emily was already seated, her posture a mix of elegance and calculated indifference. She gave me a nod that was more cold acknowledgement than greeting. I returned a polite smile, keeping my voice calm as I spoke. "Good evening." The tension was thick but manageable until my father finally spoke. "Nobody needs your money or you," he said, his voice a mixture of disdain and practiced superiority. My mother gave a curt nod as if to reinforce his point. I froze for a split second, the words cutting deeper than I expected. Years of generosity, late-night financial planning, and quiet sacrifices all dismissed in a single breath. Yet, deep inside, a spark ignited. I took a deliberate breath, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably across the table. "Is that what you really think?" I asked, my tone deceptively soft. My father smirked, thinking I was rattled, but I had already begun mentally outlining my strategy. Dinner proceeded with strained conversation. Emily, ever the provocateur, made small jabs, commenting on the price of my dress, the unnecessary decor I had purchased for my home, and even the wine I had brought. I smiled politely, nodding and occasionally sipping water, all the while calculating my next move. After the main course, my father leaned back in his chair and began bragging about a recent investment, expecting admiration or at least polite acknowledgement. I waited until he finished, then casually mentioned, "Oh, that reminds me, I transferred the funds to cover our upcoming family obligations." His face fell. My mother blinked rapidly, unsure of what I meant. Emily looked confused, finally questioning, "Wait, what do you mean?" "I've taken care of the mortgage, the utilities, even the renovation payments you were stressing about," I said evenly, watching their expressions twist from smug superiority to disbelief. "Consider it my final contribution. From now on, you'll have to manage without my financial support." The room went silent. My father's pride clashed violently with the reality of his dependence. He sputtered, trying to recover some authority, but I had anticipated every reaction. Over the next hour, I laid out a detailed plan. I had consulted attorneys, restructured accounts, and ensured every transaction was legal and irrevocable. My voice remained calm and steady as I explained that my support had been conditional, and with my generosity withdrawn, they would face the consequences of mismanaging their finances. By dessert, the shift was palpable. My father's authoritative demeanor had crumbled into near desperation. My mother, who prided herself on social etiquette, struggled to maintain a mask of composure. The night ended with polite excuses. My parents claimed fatigue. Emily muttered something about an early morning meeting. As I walked to my car, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. I had learned long ago that revenge need not be explosive or dramatic. True power lies in subtlety, in the careful orchestration of consequences. Tonight, I had taken the first step, and it was only the beginning. I spent the next morning replaying every word from last night's dinner in my mind. The disrespect, the dismissal, the way my parents and Emily treated me as if I were some unwanted guest in their world. But instead of feeling broken, I felt sharper, like something inside me had finally awakened. By noon, I had already drafted the first phase of my plan. Revenge wasn't just about anger, it was about precision. And I wanted my revenge to hit them exactly where it mattered: reputation, comfort, and ego. I started by calling Mason, my attorney, sharp, calm, and annoyingly efficient. "Mason," I said, "I need all current statements for the accounts I've been contributing to, and I want to finalize the withdrawal paperwork." 2 hours later, the documents were in my inbox. And just like that, every financial lifeline my family had quietly depended on was officially gone. But that was only step one. In the evening, I received a text from Emily. "Emily, Mom says you overreacted. We don't need your help anyway." Of course, she said that. Me, perfect. "Then you won't mind what happens next." She didn't respond, but she would soon. 3 days later, my Uncle Robert invited everyone to a family brunch at his place. My parents loved Robert. They respected him in a way they never respected me. That made this brunch the perfect battlefield. When I arrived, Emily was wearing her usual fake elegant smile. My mother's face was tight. My father avoided eye contact. Robert greeted me with genuine warmth. "Harper, glad you came." I heard things got heated. I shrugged calmly. "Just family honesty." Robert looked at me next. "Harper, what about you?" "Oh, I already invested months ago," I said smoothly. Emily's head snapped toward me. "You what?" My father cleared his throat. Well, we can handle it. That's when Robert delivered the blow I had orchestrated. I was reviewing your financial status from the last project, he said. My mother's hand shook. Emily froze. And I just smiled. Robert continued, I thought Harper was still helping you. I cut him off gently. Not anymore. They told me nobody needs my money or me. So I honored their wishes. A deep silence filled the table. My father's voice cracked first. Harper, you didn't need to take it literally. Emily whispered, are you serious right now? You ruined everything. I leaned back, calm as ice. Funny, that's exactly what you all did to me. Robert looked between us. Did something happen? I kept my tone professional. I simply stopped funding people who don't value me. My mother inhaled sharply, like she had been slapped. Perfect. After brunch, things escalated quickly. By evening, rumors had already spread among the family. Harper cut them off. The house mortgage is overdue. They were depending on her. My parents hated one thing more than losing money, losing reputation. And I had just taken both. That night, Emily called me. No greeting. No politeness. Just pure panic. Harper, what is wrong with you? Mom is crying. Dad is furious. Everyone knows, I calmly replied. Good. Now they can finally see the truth. Fix it, she demanded. No, I said. You all made your choice, she cursed and hung up. I felt nothing but satisfaction. The next blow came unexpectedly. Investor Hallman, one of the people I had collaborated with for years, called me. I heard your parents are in trouble, he said. I answered honestly. They put themselves there. Well, he continued, your sister called me, begging me to include them in the new development project. She used your name. I almost laughed. Of course she did. What should I do? He asked. Decline, I said. And tell her to stop speaking on my behalf. This was better than I planned. Emily wasn't just panicking, she was spiraling. 2 days later, they showed up at my apartment. All three of them. My father knocked loudly. Harper, we need to talk. I opened the door halfway. About what? My mother stepped forward. We didn't mean what we said. Emotions were high. I raised an eyebrow. So now you need me? Emily snapped. Stop acting like you're some queen. You're blowing everything out of proportion. I met her glare calmly. No. I'm finally responding appropriately. My father exhaled in defeat. We can't handle the payments without you. We thought you'd always help. There it was. The truth. Not love. Not care. Just dependency. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. You see me as a wallet, I said quietly. Not family. My mother shook her head. That's not true. It is, I cut in. But you know what? I'm done. Emily scoffed. You can't just abandon your family. I leaned closer, my voice steady and cold. You abandoned me first. None of them had a response. I walked back inside and locked the door. For the first time in years, I felt completely free. Later that night, I stood by my window overlooking the bright New York skyline. Cars moved like small sparks below, and the city buzzed with its usual urgency. My phone buzzed with a new email notification. It was Mason. Phase 2 ready. Perfect. This wasn't over. This was just the setup. The revenge? That would hit next, and it would be unforgettable. The morning air was crisp as I stepped out of my apartment, my mind sharp and focused. Months of careful planning had led to this moment. My parents, Emily, and even Uncle Robert had no idea what was about to hit them. I called Mason. Everything is ready, I said. Let's begin phase 3. Mason's voice was calm, almost amused. Are you sure you want to do this publicly? I smiled. Absolutely. They need to understand the consequences. By noon, the emails were out. Investor Hallman, the board, and several family associates received a detailed account of my parents' financial mismanagement. Every unpaid debt, every misused fund, every lie they had told to cover up their dependency laid bare. Within an hour, the first responses came flooding in. Hallman called, astonished. They misrepresented everything. And you warned me months ago. I shrugged, sipping my coffee. I did what was necessary. Meanwhile, Emily began texting frantically, begging me to call her. I ignored every message. She had spent years undermining me, judging me, and now it was her turn to feel the consequences. By evening, my parents' home was in chaos. The local bank had frozen several accounts, unpaid loans were flagged, and the neighbors whispered about the sudden financial collapse. They were finally facing the reality I had endured silently for years. I received a call from Mason. Harper, they're at your door. They want to talk. He laughed quietly. Let them come. I'm ready. When the doorbell rang, I opened it with a calm smile. My father, usually imposing, looked defeated. My mother clutched her pearls, visibly shaking. Emily's mascara had run from crying. We didn't realize, my father started. Didn't realize what? I asked, voice steady. That you can't manipulate or control me anymore? That the world won't bend to your convenience. Emily's voice cracked. Harper, please. We need you. We made mistakes. I took a step closer, keeping my tone cold but clear. You made choices, I respected your wishes. I simply returned the favor, my mother gasped. Harper, we were counting on your support. I shook my head. Support is earned through respect and care. You offered neither. Tears streamed down Emily's face. We were wrong, I see it now. I crossed my arms. It's too late for apologies. You wanted my money, my help, my loyalty, but never my respect. Uncle Robert, who had arrived to mediate, looked at me incredulously. Harper, surely this is extreme, I repeated. No. This is the clarity you refused to see for years. By the next day, the damage was complete. Word had spread through social circles, investors, and even family friends. The reputation of my parents was tarnished, Emily's credibility ruined. All because they underestimated me. And yet, I didn't feel cruel. I felt justice. Finally, the people who had depended on my kindness and generosity without gratitude were learning the value of integrity and respect. I spent the afternoon updating my own accounts, reviewing new investments, and watching as my independence became a shield. No longer would I be the overlooked daughter, the convenient sister, or the forgiving child. I was Harper, strategic, strong, unstoppable. That evening, Mason called again. Harper, it's done. Everything is irreversible. Your parents and Emily have no financial leverage left. They're humbled. I exhaled, feeling a rare sense of peace. Thank you. You've been invaluable. I leaned back in my chair and reflected on the journey. Years of being dismissed and undervalued, of silently giving without recognition, had finally culminated in empowerment. This wasn't just revenge. It was reclaiming my life. Later that night, I received a text from Emily. I don't know how to face you. Please, Harper. I stared at the phone for a moment. Then typed carefully, learn from this. And remember, respect is earned, not expected. My parents, too, reached out separately, apologizing for years of neglect and selfishness. I replied politely but firmly, the past is over, I've built my future. And it doesn't include manipulation or lies. Weeks later, the situation stabilized. My parents sought professional guidance to rebuild their finances and reputation. Emily moved into a small apartment, forced to confront independence for the first time in her life. And I continued thriving, confident and free. In the quiet moments, I realized the depth of my transformation. Harper was no longer the girl who silently endured disrespect at family dinners. She was a woman who had mastered patience, strategy, and courage. The ultimate satisfaction came one morning when I met with Investor Hallman. He smiled warmly. Harper, your strategy, it's brilliant. You didn't just protect yourself, you taught everyone a lesson. I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is empowerment. Months later, reflecting on the ordeal, I documented every step, not out of pride, but to understand how far I had come. It was an exercise in clarity, strategy, and emotional intelligence. And when I finally shared the story with a small circle of trusted friends, the reaction was unanimous, shocking, powerful, inspiring. My journey had started with betrayal, disrespect, and being taken for granted. It ended with financial autonomy, moral victory, and a profound sense of self-worth. And that, ultimately, was the revenge I had sought, not just against my family, but against the limitations they had tried to impose on me. Harper had risen, stronger, wiser, unstoppable. And at the very end, for my YouTube channel mention, this is Harper's story of betrayal, strategy, and ultimate justice. Full story on my channel, Epic Revenge.